Morning guys, my name is Pete. Welcome to the P-Life channel. Today we're going to be reviewing my 2022 BMW G80 M3 with xDrive. Alright, so we're going to try a new method of filming today. I'm going to use my iPhone 12 Pro or whatever it's called to film the whole video. Seems to have pretty good audio, captures exhaust notes pretty well, and I don't know, whatever voodoo they have with the audio is actually working out pretty good. So for those new to the channel, just a quick update. In the prior videos, as you saw, I had a 718 Spider, a Porsche 718 Spider. I owned that car for about 8 months. It was a good time to sell. Had a lot of fun with that. Not ever really a convertible guy, but that was a really fun and unique ownership experience. But I moved on to this 2022 G80 M3 with the all-wheel drive. A little bit of background. I kind of had a crush on M3s from my college days, like most people. You know, they're the kind of quintessential BMW sports car. I couldn't afford one at the time. Around the time I got my first job, had a little romance with Porsche. I had a 911 before the 718 Spider and some Macans. But really what got me thinking about this car more seriously was the fact that it has xDrive. And the F80, when I drove that car, and you know, they were really fast cars, they really couldn't put the power down. A lot of that was addressed in the G80 and 82 generation with the chassis improvements. Actually, the chassis is actually phenomenal for this car. So for today's video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a quick walk around of my spec. I'm not going to give all the numbers. There's a lot of reviews out there. I'm going to give you my impression. Having a lot of seat time in Porsches. I had an Audi R8. I had a 2020 Vantage V8, which was actually a fun car. I didn't make a video on that. But I definitely want to give you my opinions on what I like and some of the little niggles with the car that I dislike. And kind of try to focus on what differentiate the xDrive from the rear-wheel drive, because I've driven both. I drove my buddy's, it's got a really nice car, actually, a black on black rear-wheel drive M4 2021, and I think that's probably the most interesting distinction you'll get out of this. Jackhammer guy's pissing me off. Sorry about that. Go for a little cruise, talk about the driving impressions. Really, the interior of this car is beautiful. Just right off the bat, it feels like a 5 Series. It's really well insulated. There's a lot of room. You don't have that like stupid kink in your knee that you get with the 2 Series or the old 3 Series because of the transmission tunnel being very wide. Ergonomically, it's very nice. I can get comfortable. I only picked 3 options on this car, 4 actually. Skyscraper gray metallic on the outside, the carbon fiber interior package, which is actually really sweet for whatever, 900 bucks. Full Tartufo leather. The full leather transforms the interior. You get leather from here up all around the dash, on the bottom of the dash. It really makes it premium feeling. You know, the color is very nice. If you want to have any sort of traction control, you need to get the xDrive Professional, because stability control DSC needs to get turned off in order for you to go into rear wheel drive. All right, so let's go. For me, the biggest highlights of this car is the powertrain. So the S58 engine is a freaking monster. It's a 3-liter inline 6 with big ass twin turbos on it. You know, the engine is designed to handle a lot of power, and it feels very, very solid. It has a very strong top end. You know, I think BMW rates it somewhere in the 510 PS range and 473 torque. That's all bullshit. It's probably like 550 horsepower and 500 pound-feet at the crank. The thing has a 2 kilogram lighter crankshaft than the X3M. It actually is a very free revving engine. It has 3D printed pistons. It has a completely different airbox design. The airbox actually is pretty cool. It's got 2 ducts by the bottom of the front, and it constantly feeds cool air. The grill is really big, and it's designed that way so you can get cooling and stuff in the car. So I don't really mind it. Actually, in person, it looks really good. But all of that is designed, and the whole design of the vehicle is basically there to feed, you know, the engine with air. The next thing that I like is the ZF Auto. I've had the ZF Auto in a 5 Series before. I've had the ZF Auto in my Aston Martin Vantage. The ZF Auto is a really badass gearbox. Yeah, it doesn't, you know, do shifts as fast as a dual clutch, PDK, yada, 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 but it's a very, very strong gearbox. When you're just driving around, it's butter smooth. And then the way that they're recalibrated, they have the 8 HP 76 in this car, is the ZF, the model of the ZF transmission that they have. That thing can handle supposedly 760 Newton meters of torque, and that's why it has a 76 in the back. But the way they've recalibrated that box on the upshifts and the downshifts, when you're just doing a single shift, it's negligibly slower than a dual clutch. Where I think the transmission lacks in comparison to like a PDK or other dual clutches is near the limits of the box, where it has to cut power and prepare itself for the shift. It doesn't allow you to have the same snappy behavior that it does in the rest of the rev range. So if you're driving this towards the limits of the car, basically you just need to be cognizant that as soon as your shift lights hit like the first red, second red, the car's already starting to cut power. So the fastest way to actually shift this car is you want to be locked in manual mode and then punch it, and then, you know, click over the gear selector, and I'll show a video of that, and then go into automatic mode and let the car shift for itself. It's very consistent. It almost feels like robotized. It's very nice. You can also manual shift. It's probably equally okay if you're in the higher gears. It might even be a little bit faster. But gears 1, 2, and 3 are ridiculously short, okay? One interesting comparison, because I kind of back-to-back drove this car multiple times, and I've also driven the rear-wheel drive M4. The steering weight is very light, both in the all-wheel drive and the rear-wheel drive car. The steering weight in rear-wheel drive mode is lighter, has less inertia, both in the mode and the all-wheel drive, but also in the rear-wheel drive car. Very accurate, precise steering, very quick rack. It has a good turning radius. That said, the steering feel when you're on a corner and you're making steering adjustments and the car just kind of gives you one of these, you don't know what the fuck is going on. So you just kind of open your eyes and, you know, have to feel it out, because the feedback you're getting from the wheel doesn't always correspond with road texture. And I think to some degree, even though I feel very fortunate to have gotten the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, which are amazing from a traction perspective, there's a lot of rubber on the front tires. The 275s in the front are 35, and the PS4Ss tend to have a very soft sidewall, so you get a little bit vague steering feel, I think, because of that combination. And I'm not sure if the response is a little bit better with the P0s. I wouldn't want P0s. Actually, on this car, because it's all-wheel drive, I don't really care. But if I had a rear-wheel drive car and I had P0s, I'd swap them out for something else. All right, so another thing that's really nice about this car is the modes. It's almost like 3-4 different cars in one for the all-wheel drive version. So you got your comfort mode where you're just cruising around, you know, mind-numbing driving. It has a nice audio system, this and that. But then you can put it in four-wheel drive sport. You can customize your M1 and your M2 button. And you can change them so easily. You just go into the display. You got your M1, M2. You can customize your chassis, your steering, your transmission responsiveness, with DRS, you know, your throttle, and how long it actually holds the gears with your Sport and Sport Plus settings for the engine. But then you can also customize the brake feel. The brakes are fly-by-wire, so I love the Sport brake feel. You can tell it's over servoed, but when you're hauling ass 130 miles an hour in a 4,000-pound car and you step on it, it drops the boat anchors. And I just have the steel brakes on this car. If you have the xDrive Professional, you can go in rear-wheel drive mode, and then you get that AMG GTR style 10 traction control, 10-stage traction control. I've used it a few times, but really where this car shines is the all-wheel drive system. The all-wheel drive system, I've driven a bunch of all-wheel drive cars. This, except for a little bit heavier steering weight, you feel the car is just clawing into the road, but it feels like, you know, very pointy, like a rear-wheel drive car. When you're completely on it, you can definitely feel that the car pulls you forward when you're in all-wheel drive mode, and it pushes you from the rear. It's probably a little bit the chassis feeling, like what you get through your butt, and I just have the regular seats, is more communicative in rear-wheel drive mode, definitely. And it's actually even more communicative in the M4 for some reason, and I don't know if it's the way that the chassis is laid out. So yeah, basically this car, the traction is unbelievable once you're flying. The thing pulls like a Nissan GTR. I want to say one of the best comparisons I could make is a Nissan GTR, because I've driven a couple of those, and you know, those are really violent cars, and it just feels like you have a magnet in front of the car, like pulling you. That's exactly how this car feels. And so that's really amazing, getting that sensation in an M3. And to be honest, having driven in, you know, an M4 comp in the drive with the ZF, you really don't need the all-wheel drive. The car in stock form is really buttoned down from a chassis perspective and from an agility perspective, and you know, if you run the correct tires, you can drive it in the snow. But yeah, dude, the all-wheel drive, especially if you want to tune the car and you want to rip like crazy times, this thing is completely bananas. I think it was tested by Brooks from Drag Times. You got a 3.1 or something, 0 to 60 without the rollout, and then you got an 11.2 quarter mile. I've tested mine similar to those times. The launch control is ridiculously violent. Actually launches harder. It may launch harder stock than my R8. For sure it launches harder with additional boost. The one thing that I don't like about the launch control is that the launch control is, you have to drive a specific distance. You have to have all the settings in like a certain position. And it makes a difference, actually. I think I was like low to mid 3s, 0 to 60 without launch control, and definitely can get under 3 with launch control. So you can actually brake boost the car on demand. It gets about maybe 8 PSI or something, and you'll hear it spooling. But for whatever reason, it doesn't optimize the traction. And so you will not hook as hard as you will when you have launch control engaged. So the fact that you can't always get launch control on demand and it's a little bit finicky, it fucking pisses me off. But whatever. How much am I going to launch the car? I'm just driving around most of the time, just having fun. All right, so we're going to pop this mofo into M1, which is, and you can hear right away, the active sound design is a little bit of a nice little burbles. The active sound design isn't something that I'm digging, but you can turn that off with Beamer Link, and you can also add an exhaust to make the stock exhaust a little bit louder. So you can do a couple of downshifts there, and you can hear the engine sounds real good, but with all-wheel drive. Jesus Christ. 1 second delay from, I was, 4,500 RPM in third gear. But, think about the transmission speed. So click, shift, click, shift, upshift, upshift, upshift. It was like pretty instant. Going ridiculously spiritedly, and the brakes are nuts. And then in the sport mode, I'll probably tap it halfway, and everything just fell forward. Going around bends and corners actually is amazing in this car as well. You cannot get this car to put the ass out with the all-wheel drive unless you're a complete jackass. And I'm not saying that I'm not a jackass and that I would never experience that, but you have to push it so hard with the all-wheel drive for it to lose traction. It's unfreaking real. Yeah, I mean, it's just mind-boggling, and the fact that it feels mostly rear-wheel drive and it still handles and doesn't feel understeery or anything like that. But yeah, the biggest party trick for this car, hands down, is the launch. The launch is just ridiculous. It's otherworldly, and when I get a chance, I'm going to demonstrate what it's like to actually go from a complete stop in first gear, and so you can see how much the turbo lag is, and I'll demonstrate here. So I'm going about 5 miles an hour. All right, 1,000 RPM, go to first gear, punch it, now. Okay, that's a little crazy. But when I said punch it, I hit the gas, and you can count how long it takes for the car to completely get on it and to get boost. And this is without brake boosting and without launch control with the all-wheel drive. The launch control is ballistic. The only thing that I've ever been in that launched harder than that is an electric car and a 911 Turbo S. Not even a Lamborghini or an R8 launch as hard as this car, especially if you have a couple extra PSI. A little bit of the turning diameter radius. Not bad, dude. It's almost like it has rear wheel steering. Alright, that's under 60 miles an hour by far, and I had to go to fifth gear. That's how short the gear ratios are. So yeah, just like 1 second power delay. It's not a shift delay. The shifts are instantly almost, as long as you're doing one gear and not 2, 3 gears. Like a dual clutch can drop you 3 gears, this can only drop you 1 gear. But yeah, just once you get even high revs, it doesn't feel like it. Either it doesn't have an anti-lag system, or the turbos are huge. And I would wager, I couldn't find the specs. If anybody has the specs for the turbos in terms of the impeller sizes or whatnot, feel free to add it to the comments. But the turbos have such a strong top end that, and they have so much headroom on top of that, that they're definitely big snails. Yeah, and the xDrive, I did not anticipate how much fun this car would be. Despite the small kind of little niggles, that's really no issue. Definitely in the 2,000 miles I've driven it, and I haven't even driven it in really bad weather and snow yet. It's one of the best cars that I've ever had on initial impressions. I definitely think that I'm looking forward to my time with it. There's definitely something else coming in the garage of the Porsche flavor that they're not giving me. They got to make it first, but they're not delivering it to me for a long time. So in the meantime, we're gonna fuck around with the Beamer a little bit. We are going to get it dialed in. We're gonna make it sound better and less fake. And yeah, I mean, that's that's the plan for now. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give us a thumbs up, hit the like button, subscribe. Share this video with any friends that you know that are thinking about BMW xDrive. Hopefully my opinions, can help you guys with a purchasing decision. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out either by email, plifechannel@gmail.com, or you can hit me up on Instagram or Beamer Post. And thank you guys for watching.